Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about the misconception around meditation and mindfulness practices that is we have to be clearing our mind, or that's what it means. And many of my clients express a frustration when they feel like they cannot clear their minds. Their minds don't go empty and blank when they're in the practice. And so they assume this is not working. I'm not doing this right. And it's frustrating. And it feels like we don't want to engage because we're unable to gain the benefit if we can't get this clear mind, this clear, empty mind. But, I want to clear that up and say that's not what we're here to do. You aren't going to have a perfectly empty mind. It's not going to be blank. And that's because all of the sensory input that we're getting from the body and every sensory organ and everything of just, our proprioceptors, what it is to be in the world, it's all taking in about 11 billion pieces of information at once. Although the mind won't treat all of those all at one time, they're in there, the information's coming in. So to assume that there will be no information to treat within our experience and within the mind is just plain wrong. There will always be something coming in to the mind, some kind of experience. So you're not going to go perfectly blank and empty when you're in these practices. That's not what it means to be in meditation, to be mindful. I always explain mindfulness as being mindful of something, right? So there's not an empty there. There's not a perfectly clear there. There's a mindful of. And now we can say that mindful of, that's where the training comes in. That's why we practice. That's why we develop the skill, because that mindful of is directing the attention. It's the ability to be able to hone in and place it where we would like it to be. So if we think about really busy mind, right, that's us kind of lacking the ability to direct, because the mind is like directing itself into the chaos, down the rabbit hole, up in the trees, swinging around. And it's unpleasant when our mind is chaotic. We can't even pinpoint what thought we're having. They're all flying around and creating anxiety and depression and bad feelings and bad opinions, and we don't even know. It's like you can't hear the specific thought that's developing this within you. And so the being mindful of is the ability to redirect, to call all of that back home and say, I'd like to place this somewhere that's more peaceful. Not that it's empty. I'm going to choose to place it somewhere that's more peaceful. And in mindfulness, that's pretty much always on a present moment experience. So when you're starting your practice, and actually all the way through it, as long as you have a practice, you are honing this skill of placing the attention and then being mindful of what you would like to experience in the moment. So the way that we hone these skills are the exercises that I teach often to clients and in classes, which are one, the biggest foundation, the breath. Like I've said before, it's the biggest tool you have because it's always there and it is a peace creator in the body. By breathing slow and gentle and calm, you are calming your nervous system, coming back to the parasympathetic. So you're honing the skill to be able to place your attention on the breath, which we do with the counting of the breath, experiencing the sensations of the breath. You can even alter the breath. All of those are developing your ability to focus on one thing in this present moment, which is the breath. The mind is not empty. The mind is not clear. The mind is being mindful of the breath. And then we notice, wow, if I can do that, and this skill gets really large, the amount of peace I can experience when the only thing occupying my attention is the peaceful breath, that is the effect of the practice that gives us that internal peace and calm. And I would describe it as a quiet, right? It's not an empty, not a perfectly clear, but a quiet. So things just go a little bit softer in the experience, not so busy. I love how in French and both Spanish, instead of saying mindfulness, they say plena conciencia or pleine conscience, which means full consciousness. That doesn't mean empty, no empty in there. Full consciousness means you're completely aware of where you're placing your consciousness, and the consciousness is all right here in this moment, fully on where you'd like to place it. So we can do it with the breath, and we also can do it with our present moment experience, which I teach in exercises like the sensory awareness. Many of us have tried this. Name 10 things you see, name 5 things you hear, 4 things you smell, 2 things in the touch, in the body, whatever. Change those numbers as you like, but these things bring you back to the present moment senses right here and right now. And the stronger you're able to engage with that, that's the honing of the practice, the better you are to get that full consciousness in this present moment. Because a not full consciousness, that's like your mind is off on all these things of the past and the future, wandering around. But if you're fully present and your consciousness is all right here, you can place it where you'd like on these senses. And when we do that on a beautiful day and the sun is shining, we're looking at the flowers, we're smelling that kind of honey smell of all the nectar, it's peaceful. Because this present moment is where our happiness and peace is found. So that's the honing of the skill of mindfulness. And that's kind of what we're doing in a meditative practice. It's not empty mind. And I am guilty definitely of saying, find that clear, open space in the mind. But when we think about that, it's not that it's an empty clear. It's that when we do place it in this present moment, and we are feeling the senses here and now, there's a spaciousness that occurs, not all the clutter of all these other thoughts. And then when we do kind of start addressing the thought mind, it's not in all of a sudden I have no thoughts. It's being able to step back from them, stay present in your being, but notice the thoughts without getting engaged and wrapped up in them. So they might still be there. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong if they're still there. You're just not being absorbed by them, carried away by them. So hopefully that cleared up a little bit of this misconception around empty mind or clear mind and the frustration that accompanies it when the mind can't be empty. So this week, practice this, and remember that it's an ongoing skill. This is one you have to develop. No person just sits down and boom, I can totally get rid of all these chaotic thoughts. It's a training, it's a muscle to exercise. And you do that by repetitively doing these breathing practices. That's why it's the foundation of the practice, and monastics do it, yogis do it, everybody does it. You gotta hone that skill of being able to bring the attention back to something in this present moment. So practice that this week. Hone your skill. Know that it doesn't just come and it's just handed to you. You have to do it. But it feels good to practice when you can get that mind back to the present and just feeling the breath or the senses. It feels good and peaceful. If you enjoy these talks and would like to join us for a group session or individual coaching, you can find us at newleafmindfulness.com. You can find my recorded meditations on YouTube and Insight Timer. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all very soon.